Hi, good morning. Today we're going to take notes on complementary and supplementary angles. Okay, and I am taking these notes on 9/23/20. You are welcome to use the same date or to add your own date, and this is page 10 of my notes journal. Today's essential question. And today's essential question isn't going to be really a question, it's just going to be a statement of describe complementary and supplementary, and these are long words, angles. Okay, and then once we know how to describe these angles and what they mean, then we're going to use this information to solve some equations. So let's get started with just the basics on complementary. Okay, so right here, I'm going to begin my notes. I just skipped a little line here in the top to give myself some room, and we're going to start by writing the definition. It's two angles are called complementary. Complementary is how you spell it. Two angles are complementary when their measures, and we measure angles with degrees, okay? So their degrees, their measures add to 90 degrees. And that little dot, it's like a circle on the upper right-hand side of that 0 is the degrees marking. Okay, and let me draw an example that you can copy down as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make two lines that are perpendicular. And what it means to be perpendicular is that they cross at a 90-degree angle. Okay, and we mark our 90-degree angle with that square in the corner. Okay, so if you don't remember that or that's something new to you, you may want to write the 90 degrees there with the square. Okay, the square represents that it is going to be 90 degrees. Now, I'm going to just put some points on my line. I'm just going to label them A, B, and C. So angle ABC is 90 degrees. And what I want to do is show you an example of complementary angles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a ray coming from point B. A ray is just simply a line that starts at a point and goes out from here. Okay, so now you can see that I have made two angles, angle 1, angle 2. Okay, and I'm going to mark them, one with a single line and then one with a double line, because I'm going to tell you they are not the same size. And so that's why I use a single line and a double line to show you that these are not the same. If they both had a single line only, then that would be me telling you that they're the same amount. Okay, I'm going to tell you that this one is worth 35 degrees and this angle is 55 degrees. Okay, and to see if they're complementary, all we do is we take the two angle measurements and we add them together. Okay, so 5 plus 5 is 10, carry my 1. 3 plus 5 is 8 plus 1 is 90 degrees. So yes, these two angles are complementary. So what I could say is, let me add another point here. And I'm going to call this point D, and that'll make this next statement a little bit easier to talk about. I'm going to say angle ABD plus, okay, an angle ABD, I'm going to kind of color in yellow right here. Okay, that's this angle, plus angle DBC. Okay, and I'm going to use an orange highlighter so that you can see this. Here's the D, the B, and the C. Okay, when those two angles are added together, they are 90 degrees, which again means complementary. So here's a neat little trick. Complementary starts with a C. Now, if you look at that C in complementary, I can also make it into a 9, which allows me to look at 90. So that's my shortcut. That C can be put into a 90 for 90 degrees, which is the definition of complementary. Okay, guys. You may draw a line at the end of these notes because we just finished our quick lesson on what it means to be complementary. Now we're going to do another short lesson, but this time it's going to be on what does it mean to be supplementary, okay? At any time, feel free to stop and pause these notes to get caught up. Supplementary angles. Okay, we're going to start the same way with our definition, and it's going to sound a lot the same. Two angles. Okay, and it's like I said, it's a lot like this one. Two angles are called, and this time we're going to change the word to supplementary, is how you spell it, supplementary. Okay, when, again, it sounds just like this, their measures add to 180 degrees. So let me stop here so you have a minute to copy that down. Okay, so while you're copying that down, I think I'm going to go in here with my turquoise pen, and I'm just going to mark in here complementary is 90 degrees. And then over here, I'm going to do supplementary is 180 degrees, just so that we can see those differences, because otherwise those definitions can sound a lot alike. Okay, now, so to show that the angles are supplementary, what I have to do, just like I did in the previous one, is I started with an angle that was 90 degrees, and then I cut it into two angles. Well, here for the example, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to start with a straight line. Okay, all straight lines measure 180 degrees if you measure like this. Okay, that is 180 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3 points on here. They don't have to be anywhere special, just 3 points. And I'm going to create a ray that comes from the middle point. And again, a ray is a fancy word for when I start a line at an end point and I go out forever. Okay, so now I've taken this line and it has split into two angles. And you can see that the angle measurements are clearly different sizes. This one's a lot smaller than the other angle. Okay, and I'm going to call these, I'm going to put a point here, and I'm going to give this one some letters as well. And I think I'm going to say W, X, Y, and I'm going to put Z up here on this one. Okay. So I'm going to give you some measurements. What I want you to know is that the whole line is 180 degrees. Okay, but when I split it up, I split it into two parts, and I'm going to say that this one's 130 degrees, and this guy over here is going to be 50 degrees. And so to show that it's supplementary, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the two measurements, and I'm just going to add them together to see if they add up to 180, which is a straight line. If they do that, then our angles are called supplementary. So you can see zeros makes 8, and this makes a 1. And I have my supplementary angles. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you like I did up here with the two different colors. I'm going to start off with my yellow, okay, and I'm going to say that angle WXZ, angle WXZ, when added to, let's see, let me highlight this yellow, WXZ, and that's this WXZ. When added to, let's do ZXY. Angle ZXY will equal 180 degrees. So let me highlight this orange for you. Okay. Now, as a shortcut like we did up here, we started with the C for complementary, and as a memory trick, I was able to make that C into a 90. So I would remember complementary is 90. Well, supplementary starts with an S. S. So I'm going to do my S like this, and I am now going to turn that S for supplementary into 180 degrees. So I now have another way to remember or distinguish between complementary and supplementary. The S in supplementary helps me to remember there's an 8 for 180 degrees. And at this point, you may draw a line at the end of your notes, and you may pause so that you can ensure that you have everything copied. Okay, I hope you got all the notes copied. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply what we learned in our notes to an example problem, and we're going to actually write an equation and solve it. So what I've drawn here, I would like you to draw as well. It is a set of complementary angles, and I know it's complementary because there's this box right here. I'm actually going to shade it in a little bit so you can see it better, that says that this picture represents two angles that have a sum of 90 degrees. And again, that comes from our notes up here, okay? But this time I didn't give us numbers in all of it. I said this is some angle on the top that I don't know, and it's worth 2 times some x. But I do happen to know that this bottom angle is 40. So this is what I can do so that I can determine what the value of x is and then find out what this angle is. I can take 2 times x, which is my first angle, and I can add it to 40 degrees. Okay, just like we did in the above notes. And I can say that this is equal to 90 degrees. And I know that because they are complementary. And now I have an equation that I'm going to solve. So I'm going to start by getting rid of our constant value, which is being added. So I would subtract 40 degrees from both sides. And what I'm doing is I'm removing the bottom angle. And so I'm only going to have the top angle is now left as 50 degrees because 90 take away 40 is 50. Now, what I happen to know is now that this angle is 50 degrees. 2x is 50 degrees. So I know that this angle is 50 degrees. And if that's all I needed to do, I could be done here. But let's say I wanted to determine the value of x. If that is the case, I just continue solving and I remove this coefficient by dividing. Since it's being multiplied, this says 2 times x equals 50. So I'm going to divide this by 2, and this is going to read x equals 25. So what we were able to determine is 2x equals 50. So I know the angle measure is 50. And then I was able to take it from there and determine that the missing value x was worth 25 degrees. So again, I was able to take my complementary definition and apply it to a problem to determine the value of x. Welcome back, our last example. I've drawn for us a pair of supplementary angles, and you may draw that in your notes as well. And what I'm going to do is use the definition that's actually still right in front of us to find out the value of x. And I'm also going to determine the value of that angle. So I'm going to set up a two-step equation by saying, oh, if I take 4x and I add it to 100, I know for a fact that these are supplementary, which means 180. And I know that's 180 because I'm telling you that I drew a line here. And anytime we take a line and we create two angles, they are considered supplementary and they're 180 degrees. So just like I did last time, I'm going to solve this equation by subtracting 100 on both sides. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm just removing this angle over here, and I'll be left with 4x equals 80. And now I happen to know the angle is 80, but if I want to continue, I'm going to divide away or divide out the coefficient, and I'm going to know that x is equal to, let's see, 80 divided by 4 is 20. So I know that x is 20 degrees, and I know that 4x, the angle measure itself, is 80 degrees. So I am able to use my definition to apply it to find my missing value of x.